actually met at Camp Chesterfield, Indiana in 1998 and were married in 1999. In addition to them both being dedicated to spiritual growth and becoming spiritually enlightened, Paul knew she sang and she knew he played guitar and piano. That's a match. When Pat asked Paul if he could accompany her songs for a Camp Chesterfield church service, their musical collaboration began. In 2005, Pat and Paul released a CD of 11 of Pat's songs called The Endless Night. After relocating to Western Michigan in 2005 2006, they played music in various venues and with various ensembles around the St. Joseph, Michigan area. During this time, Pat, who is a psychologist by profession, worked for a Riverwood mental health group, while Paul worked in educational sales for a large music supply company, and then taught at Lake Michigan College. In 2013, Pat and Paul relocated to Monroe County, Michigan, near where Pat grew up. In addition to their current musical activities, Pat works in independent elder care, and Paul teaches for the Jackson College in the prison education program, and also has guitar students at the Art of Musique studio in Canton. And as he was telling me, there you do it now on Zoom and FaceTime. And now, without further ado, I give you Paul. Thanks.
Good morning. Good morning. Always nice to be back. Good to see everyone again. You know, throughout history, one of the greatest virtues is wisdom. And I'm thinking about, wisdom is really wherever you find it. It can be anywhere. And it can be learned in all kinds of ways. You can learn what's the wise thing to do and follow that example, or what's the unwise thing to do and avoid that bad example, but it's still wisdom in any event. Now the question comes up, just how important is wisdom? Well, in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 7, we read that wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding. Wisdom and understanding. There is a link between the two. You can't really have one without the other. Well, maybe you can. I remember Red Skelton had a character on his television show called The Bad Little Kid or The Mean Little Kid, something like that. Those of you who are old enough to remember Red Skelton know who I'm talking about. But when he would play all of these odd characters, it was very funny, very well done. But the odd little kid, or the mean little kid, bad little kid, he'd think about doing something he shouldn't do, and he'd say, if I do that, I'm going to get a whipping. Oh, well, I'll do it anyway. He did. He got in trouble. He certainly understood, but he was not wise. Okay? So the two do need to be linked up to get the proper application. Now, I'm looking at understanding in a couple of different ways here. We have common sense understanding, things people just know, and just living life, you just figure things out. And then there's just, the practical day-to-day understanding. There's also some analytic understanding, the things we have to do in school. For example, you take a science class, you have to learn how things work, you have to learn how math works, you have to learn things like that. Understanding can be developed in that way. But there's a third form of understanding called transformative understanding. And if anybody's ever had an experience where all of a sudden something became just crystal clear, that an instant before was not, and you suddenly just got it. The lights went on. Can change everything in your perspective. This can happen at any time. I heard somebody talking, for example, about how an understanding can become so clear it just changes your view of everything. And if you suppose, for example, you were living in a large city, center of the city, and you commuted every day on the bus to work, and it is the middle of August and it's a 98-degree day, and the air conditioner broke down, and you're crammed on the bus with other people like sardines in a can. And all you can think about is, I've got to get home, get an ice cold glass of tea, and sit back in the air conditioner and relax. And all you're thinking about is, how soon can you get there? It's been a day to be, how shall I say it, unremembered? Okay, let's put it in the past. And all of a sudden, you feel somebody tapping you on the back of the leg, down around your ankles. You think, okay, try and overlook that, and then it happens again. And a third time, and finally you're about that close to turning around and telling the person off. And when you turn around, you see an elderly blind woman with her cane tapping the floor and bumping into the back of your leg and your ankle, trying to get her bearings. And all of a sudden, with that understanding, everything changes. Compassion can open up. You might even try to help her get off the bus and find her way where she's going. But when an understanding like that opens up, it changes everything. Now, recently, I've come across some information I want to share with you. And it's a new discovery for me. But there's a book called Freedom. I just want to tell everybody about it here. It's written by an Australian biologist called Jeremy Griffith. And he has done a lot of research for a number of decades on what is happening to provide all the conflict human beings have. They make bold claims in here that this understanding can really help world peace and things of this nature. I'm going to recommend it to you. You can get the the physical copy. I'm turning it on its side here. You can see it is not a light read. There's another book by the same author, Transform Your Life and Save the World, by the same author. And you can actually get these on their website, which is www.humancondition.com, www.humancommission.com. And you can get these books as a free download. So they're very committed to getting this information out here. I am finding it's having that kind of transformative effect for a lot of my perceptions, and I look forward to learning more about it. I pass it on to you for your information, okay? But understanding is very important, and it links into wisdom. Now, if we could move on to the subject of wisdom itself, okay, wisdom itself. I love going to the dictionary for definitions. I really do. So I wanted to look up just what does the dictionary have to say about wisdom. It's defined as the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, or the quality of being wise. All right? The quality of wisdom, the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, and the quality of being wise. Now, there's all kinds of ways wisdom can come to us. Intuitive wisdom can come from God, come from Spirit, to anyone at any time. Now, I recently heard of a lovely example of this. We had a visit a couple of weeks ago from Pat's brother Tom, his wife Diana, and they have two kids. Well, they're actually both in their 40s now. They're not kids anymore. But our niece Kathy and our nephew Michael. And Diana was telling me about when Kathy was 5 years old and in kindergarten. And she was going to a Catholic school, and they were having religion classes. And Diana went to pick little Kathy up at school one day, and Kathy said, Mommy, I believe in God. Do you believe in God? And Diana said, well, of course I do. And Kathy immediately said, why? Well, she wasn't ready for that. Why? So she decided to turn the situation around and said to little Kathy, says, well, why do you believe in God? And without missing a beat, she says, because it makes my heart feel happy. That's sweet. An intuitive perception, great wisdom coming from a little child. And that is absolutely wonderful. But if we look at the other definition of wisdom, having experience, knowledge, and good judgment, when all of these qualities come together, they have the possibility of creating the faculty of discernment. Now, discernment's based on your experience, of course, and it's also based on the intuitive faculty sometimes, and some combination of all of these things. I love the word intuition because tuition means to be taught. Intuition, being taught from within. Great word. But how do we get to where that faculty of discernment, that aspect of wisdom can open up? Well, I'm remembering a story about 3 different gentlemen, and they were asked a question, same question 3 times. First one, they said, how much is 1 and 1? The guy said, 2. How do you know? He said, the teacher told me. Well, that level of understanding is where we all start off in life. When we're little kids, we need people to tell us things. You say please and thank you. You wash your hands before you eat. You be kind to people. You share your toys. You don't pet the dog while he's eating, and keep your fingers out of that socket. We need people to tell us things. We start off there. But if a person goes no further than that, all their life is going to be externally referenced. Somebody's telling me, the teacher told me, mommy and daddy told me, the minister told me, the cop told me, the drill sergeant told me, my spouse told me, etc. It's all going to be externally referenced. Well, they asked the second gentleman, how much is 1 and 1? He said 2. And they said, how do you know? And he said, well, because according to the laws of mathematical logic, it has to be that way and cannot be otherwise. Well, this is the next level, education. Okay, it happens, and it's necessary. The third fellow, they asked, how much is 1 and 1? He said 2. And he says, how do you know? And he said, because I see that it is so. That when all these things come together, the actual seeing what is. Could that be an acceptable definition of discernment? In certain cases, at least, I think it can be. And it represents a map, I should say, of how wisdom can indeed be developed. Now, King Solomon, in the book of Proverbs, said wisdom was finer than gold. Wisdom was finer than silver, finer than rubies. He went to great lengths. And we started off with wisdom can be found anywhere. Where can wisdom be found? Anywhere indeed. And I'm reminded of my grandpa. I'd like to share with you some things about him. He was a character. He was a storyteller, and he was a lot of fun. And for a period of time, he had little proverbs and sayings that he made up. Some of them were just plain old being silly. One of those were, blessed are they who go round in circles, for they shall be called wheels. He said that. Another one he said, which showed he had a good firm grasp of the obvious, was, it takes a mighty big dog to weigh 100 pounds. That's a little example of his type of humor. But he had one saying that it took me a while to figure out. And for the longest time, I thought he was just trying to be funny and have some laughs on the silly side. But I realized there was a deep meaning in this. And he said, golden apples from great oaks do not fall. And I was in high school when I heard that, and I thought that was really funny. Yeah. And I quoted it a lot, and I had kids in my high school class going around quoting that every now and then. But it dawned on me much, much later. He was really saying, don't look for things where they can't be found. You may be looking for the golden apple, but if you're looking under an oak tree, you're not going to find it there. So then, when I'm preparing this talk today, I got thinking, well, what could you find under a great oak tree? Acorns. And if you're looking for golden apples and found a golden acorn, that's okay. That has value. And wisdom can come in all kinds of forms. It really can. So perhaps as we search for wisdom, as we search to grow in wisdom, be open to whatever it is may come our way. Even if it's what we think we're not looking for, it may be the perfect thing we need after all. So keep open-minded, keep looking, and above all else, understand the process and be consistent in prayer, meditation, developing the intuition, whatever it is we do to develop our insight and our ability to tap into that, because it's all around us. God is everywhere. God is wise. Wisdom is everywhere. So look for it, tap into it, because wisdom really is where you find it. Just be open to it and grab it when you see it. It's a pleasure always to be here with you. Thank you for inviting us today. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And wisdom, we always have to tap into within ourselves. Okay, we are going to have you do the next song, which is called River Jordan by Pat Hanks. It's one of her own creations.
I wrote this, I was working in a group home in the middle of the night. Something started to happen to me. It was, I don't know, I was wondering about love, and I kept wondering, I wonder why people love, and I'd think of maybe it's a polarity thing, and I'd think, no, that's not it. And then I'd think, well, maybe it's a mutual pleasure thing, and I'd think of times when it wasn't, but people still loved each other, and no, that's not it. And I kept thinking of new things and dismissing them, and then it hit me. There is no reason. There is no reason for love. Well, then, all of a sudden, I just opened up, and there was love everywhere. It just was everywhere. I was just vibrating with this love, and and something started to move up through me. It was the strangest feeling, and I made it stop because I thought, it's amazing what you can think of in 2 seconds. I thought, oh my God, I can't let this happen to me. My family doesn't understand me now. So anyway, I always regret that I made it stop. It's interesting that I knew how to make it stop, but I had a guitar sitting there, and I knew 3 chords, and I wanted to write a song so I would remember that experience. Have you seen the River Jordan? Have you seen it from the hill? Does the water shine and shimmer, flowing deep and silent until you can see the River Jordan? You can see it from the hill. Yes, the water shines and shimmers, flowing deep and silent until you can can step into the river. You can step in if you will. You can let the waters move you, flowing deep and silent until you can step into the river. You can step in if you will. You can let the waters move you, flowing deep and silent